Good morning. I did get my coffee, so I'm good to go. Get that out of the way. Much better. Today is Mamiya's. I don't know why my overhead light is not as bright as it should be. That's odd. I think it's fine. This is well illuminated. So the first guy, most people don't choose this particular focal length for the Mamiyas because it's a fisheye, but that's about as wide as you can get for medium format. So it's not corrected, it's not rectilinear. It's going to give you some weird effects. It does have a built-in filter. I don't know if that'll show. There you go. So I'm sure this is meant for like landscape work. And this is going to need some maintenance too. This whole section is loose. Normally I like to keep the front cap off while I'm working on lenses so that you don't have the risk of it shifting or rolling, but this element is so large I think it's kind of a good idea to keep it there. See, this is exactly what I mean. When I put pressure on it, see that? I don't know if you can see it shifting. That's why I leave caps off. So, I need to make sure this is perfectly clean. I should mute my phone. So well, let me see if I can get it. Yeah, right there. So when you put this lens down, these tabs here stick out just enough to prevent the glass from hitting the surface you're putting it down on. Sorry, not these tabs, the big ones. So when you do put it down, it's so close to that front element. And I see it all the time from people online. They have, a lens torn apart on their bench, and they've got parts everywhere, and they've got a little pile of screws here and some parts here, and whatever. But the risk you run in doing that and not keeping your parts organized is you could put it down and not realize there's a screw there, and you're putting it down on top of a screw, and that could destroy that front element. So be careful. Speaking of organizing, okay. Loosening of the rear assembly, pretty common. I wouldn't consider it common, but it definitely happens. I couldn't tell you the cause. It could just be a lot of use and age. I mean, this is a 30 some odd year old lens, something like that. It could also be that somebody attempted to take it apart and failed, and then just didn't put it back together correctly. Yeah, this whole thing is super loose. I think that spring is still attached in there. I got one this week. It was loose, is why I asked. Easy fix, just wondered. Yeah. It's usually just from age. Most of the Mamiya Sekor-Cs that we see come in really haven't been used in a long time. Just because it's not a common camera anymore. This all looks pretty clean, pretty well maintained. That's good. Yeah, I don't see any, I mean, just a tiny bit of, actually no, that's not even grease, that's just a difference in the texture. This is all surprisingly clean. But that's the looseness right there. I don't know if you can see that wiggling. So most people would assume they could just tighten these three or these three screws, but it's underneath on the sub mount. which focal length did you get? Biscuit Ranch Productions. Same thing, the 24 fisheye? Or something else? So I was concerned, I was happy that there wasn't a whole lot of excess loose grease or broken down grease, but now I'm seeing practically no grease, which is almost as concerning. It just shot out at me. I was trying to prevent that from happening. Yeah, there's almost no grease in here. It's almost entirely dry. .50 f1.0. Oh, nice. That's a fantastic lens. If I was limited and I could only take 2 of these Sekors, I would take the 50-1.9 and the 81-1.7 or 1.9. I can't remember. Yeah, if this did have grease, it's dried up. It's completely gone. It's just a little bit of dirt left behind, but practically no lubrication. Hey Matt, I have a Sekor 150-2.8 with fungus on the second element from the front. There are no grooves for a lens spanner. Our Mamiya open from the front with a rubber cone, usually instead of a spanner. I wouldn't say usually, but sometimes yes. Hi, quick question. Yesterday I was shooting and put a Robinson, I think you meant to say Rokinon. I assume you're saying Rokinon, 35T15 Cine-DS, and for some reason I was not able to focus a subject that was about 20 feet from me. Could be a lot of things. Could have been the lens was not collimated correctly, or your camera was not calibrated correctly. If you switch to a different 35mm and it worked fine, then something's wrong with your lens. Oh, I'll also ask Antonio, were you using an adapter? Because if you switched from a Cine-DS to a Zine PL, you obviously don't have the same camera. If you're using an adapter, I would be highly suspicious of the adapter as well. Yes, adapter. Yeah, that's what I suspected. I would be very suspicious of the adapter. The only adapters that I really like are, I mean, for EF stuff, the Sigma MC11, but everything else, the Metabones, Photodeox, all those oddball eBay solutions, they're not reliable. As a purveyor of fine lenses, I'm curious if big YouTube personalities like Kai or Media Division or Vintage Lenses for Video do videos on certain lenses. Do you see a movement on prices in the market? Sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. The Mamiyas are a perfect example. They were not very popular for the last 5 years, and then we started doing the mods and larger sensors came along, and they've been going up in price pretty steadily. We saw that with was it Media Division, I think, did the contacts video, the whole Kubrick thing. We saw that spike pretty obvious after that video came out, basically saying his video said that they were the same glass as super speeds, which is not accurate at all, but they're still fantastic lenses, and we did see a huge increase in the mods with those. His content is awesome. I will say that, if that's the guy that I'm thinking of. I just watched his the super fast lens, like a 0.75. He was talking about the Kubrick 0.75, and then he was doing other stuff with like the Ibelux and things like that. That was a really cool video. And so was the contacts one. This title is the one way to get me to watch. What title? Mamiya Sekor-C. Oh, it's Phil. Oh, of course. Phil was one of the earliest clients that brought the Sekor-Cs in and said, "Hey, can you do these mods?" I don't know if you recall, Phil, how long ago that was. But yeah. I would definitely say that Phil was ahead of the curve in regards to the Mamiyas for large format cinematography. I think I was the first. As far as the mods go, yeah, I think you were. I don't remember. It had to be at least, what, 4 years? No, maybe not that much. I mean, it was right when the Monstro... Actually, no, it wasn't even Monstro. It was when the VV, before Monstro existed, when that came out. Oh, and for anyone that's interested, see if I can find it. See if I can find this here. posted this? I don't know why it's on this forum, but whatever. And there you go. As far as fast lenses go, that is the Kubrick lens on my bench a couple years back. So if you're interested in fast glass, that's about the holy grail. I think he referenced it in that video as well. But yeah. 2013. Oh, you asked me. Okay. 2015. Really? Has it been that long? There was another picture somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if this is my photo or if this is someone. Oh, okay, this is okay. This was an article that someone did on us, and I happened to have it on my bench, and they said, "Can we take a picture?" I said, "Yeah, sure." There's the other one. That is my hand. But that is the Kubrick lens before it was modified for Kubrick. Or not before, but unmodified. That's the original Zeiss planar. Benjamin, absolutely, please. I'm not gonna... This stream does not mean you can only ask about Mamiyas. Please ask away. Alright, that's enough flexing of fast glass. Back to work. I need to see where this grease is going. Ah, okay. Did they make the Vivitar Series 1? Did Zeiss make that? No, they did not. Not to my knowledge. In that case, I was curious who other than Zeiss made prime lenses for the Arri bayonet mount, and are there any affordable ones you recommend? Ooh, Airy B mount. I mean, there's a handful of zooms out there. I think Ingenue and Cook both made B mount zooms at one point. For primes, I don't know. That's a good question. I guess my question to you is why? I mean, you must be shooting on an Airy camera with a B mount. I can't imagine why anybody else would want a B mount. Are you doing PL mounts this stream? I am not. This particular client did not request PL conversion, sadly. Is that a fisheye? Yes, this is... Hey, James. I think you were here last time. This is a fisheye 24mm. I don't think, to my knowledge, I don't think there are any 24mm for medium format that are not fisheyes. At least not in the Mamiya line. Oh, there goes that ring. Oh, now the grease is ruined. Start over. Fresh grease. I don't want, I'm sure it was probably fine, but I don't want any risk of contaminants in the grease. I don't want any grit. I don't want any bumps or jumps. Beautiful. Yeah, it is a very wide focal length. I know this is a super generic question, and I apologize, but I'm curious your thoughts. What kind of fast vintage lenses do you think pair best with mirrorless cameras like Sony Alpha series or Canon RF? I don't think anything pairs particularly well. I think you could use practically anything, and I also think that that's a very personal question. Everybody's going to have different opinions. It's a very subjective question. Personally, I really like vintage Leica R's. That's my style. I like the look they give. I like the lower contrast. I like the really minor spherical aberration and the focus fall off. So that's my personal preference. But then there's a lot of people that swear by Zeiss Contax or Canon FD. But I mean, there are no vintage lenses that don't work well. So you could use anything. Maximiliano, the announcement of yet again a resolution. Oh, jeez. I've been talking about the 12K thing for the last 3 days since they announced it, because everybody has been emailing me and messaging me and calling me and asking that same question, Maximiliano. It's hard to say. I need to do some proper tests, but I think the general advice that I'm going to be giving to pretty much everyone is, unless you're doing machine vision or like scientific work, or maybe if you're doing really, really high quality like VFX work, it's not going to matter. You're not going to... I mean, yes, maybe your lens won't be able to divide black and white perfectly on each pixel, but you'll never see that unless you're looking at that image at 100% on a 12K monitor. So I'm not concerned at all. In fact, I think that's even more reason to be using vintage lenses, because it's just going to be so much ultra crisp, super sharp images. You need to take the edge off just a wee bit. I don't know why I grabbed this bigger one here. That's supposed to be for those parts. In fact, as far as resolution goes, if you haven't, check out oh my gosh, who did that? Steve Yedlin. Google Steve Yedlin resolution, something like that. He has a really well done piece, a video about camera resolution and quality all around. Watch that and then make your decisions on 12K and all that. I have no idea why. I'm sure that Blackmagic did that because it looks fantastic on a press release, and now everybody's talking about Blackmagic. Okay. Alright, that's good. Random question for you guys. Is anybody here a Formula One fan? Anybody watch the qualifying today? Listen to Jeff Boyle. Yeah, same. George, thank you. Another great cinematographer's perspective. It will be good for IMAX on a budget. It will not be good for IMAX on a budget because the purpose of IMAX is the size, not the resolution. I mean, it has become more of a resolution thing because we're trying to get the sharpest picture, and when you blow it up, it becomes, or it's less soft. But when you ask, I mean, when I was growing up, IMAX was always large format, or I guess in terms of cinematography, extra large format now, and you had that really special depth of field and field of view, angle of view. You don't get that with this because it's only Super 35, so you're not going to see anything different than something like an Alexa Classic or something. It's not going to be special other than how sharp it is. Oh, what do I want? Oh, I watched the qualifying stuff. I was just disappointed. I'm a Red Bull guy, and Red Bull did not do too well. I think Verstappen is like 7th or something like that in qualifying. To me, the 12K isn't the interesting part. The interesting part is the non-Bayer sensor that can shoot 8.6 4K without a crop. That is very interesting, and I still don't know. I have heard that it's not Bayer, but they haven't said what it is. So that'll be really interesting to see how that pixel layout is implemented. I don't think they can. I would assume that Fuji has some sort of rights to the X-Trans layout, but maybe not. Maybe they're using something similar to the X-Trans. Did the Kubrick lens have an integrated focal reducer at the rear? Somebody just mentioned that on one of the Facebook groups. If it did, I don't know what the base lens was, but I don't think so. We should be more worried about hideous streaming compression instead of realism. Yeah, good luck with your 12K camera, even though you're only delivering maybe 4K, and even extremely compressed 4K at that. They're supposed to be white pixels. What? What? What is a white pixel? I wish you guys could feel this compared to the original. Oh, it's beautiful. We'll see how the whole 12K thing goes. I agree that it could be useful for windowing down and basically pan and scan. That could be extremely useful, but we'll see. Hey Matt, or anyone on here, any opinion on how a set of Leica R lenses ranging from 1969 to 1997 will look so different that they feel like different manufacturers? Absolutely. Leica did not manufacture any of those to be consistent. There was no look in mind when Leica was making those. Every time they made a new lens, they balanced price and performance, and whatever the outcome was, that's what you got. Some of the lenses were designed to be really, really high quality and very expensive. and others were designed to be slightly more affordable so that they could get more sales. They were not like cinema lenses where they designed a set to be consistent across the range. Consistency in lenses, as far as cinematography goes, wasn't really a thought in manufacturers' minds until probably the late 80s into the early 90s. And even then, that was for cinematography lenses. Photography lenses, nobody cared. So I should try to match the years. No, not necessarily. I have a long rant on that as well. You could get, let's say you're looking for a 35 and a 50 Summicron, which fits that range that you mentioned. Those could have been produced in the late 60s. They could have been produced in the late 90s. You're gonna have better luck matching them based on their condition than you are the year they were manufactured. So for example, if you find a 35 and a 50 that were manufactured within a month of each other somehow, miraculously, but over the last 30 years, one of them was really well cared for and one of them was trashed, they're not going to match at all, despite their serial numbers being extremely close. So don't pay too much attention to the year of manufacture. Pay more attention to the condition of the lenses. It appears there is a reducer in the converging group at the rear of the 50mm f0.7. I have the diagram here, so if you have the diagram, then you'll see that giant conical element, which is not any reducer I've ever seen. If you have that diagram, you could potentially apply that same prescription, remove whatever group you assume is the reducer, and see if you still get an image, but I suspect you won't. But I have no idea. I don't think anyone at Zeiss even knows, because that team that made that lens is long gone. I don't think Zeiss even has that lens in their museum. Earlier Airy B was related to a sale I saw for, I don't know what that is, Krasnogorsk, fitted with M42, another with Airy B, could only find Fisheye Pentax 15. I'm extremely happy with how this iris field came out. They're too close together. Let's use this guy. Change ago sent you my new set of Zeiss ZF to be Cine-Modded. I fear I may now want to sell them, but debating. What's your opinion on those? I think they're still perfectly usable lenses, especially, you know, a lot of people ended up selling their classic ZF2s when the Milvis came out, which is fine if that's the look you're going for. If you want a cleaner, more accurate look, then yeah, sell them, get something newer and cleaner. But if you're looking for something that's not clinical and perfect, I think the ZF2 classics are fantastic. They're smaller, lighter, they've got more character. That's entirely up to you, but I think it also depends on what kind of content you're shooting. I don't think I have any black paint here. Nah, that's gonna be too dried up. Let's find out. This might work. Let's see. Duclos to buy Cine-Mod as well. Nice. Yeah, we've done a couple. That enamel, I don't know. I don't know what kind of paint this is. It's a It's an optically flat, light-absorbing paint. We use this paint specifically on either internal components or a rear baffle like this, where we don't want reflections. As you can see, this is extra, like super flat black paint that it came with. So I'm trying to make sure that we don't introduce any unwanted reflections. Yeah, let that dry before I reinstall it. Yeah, it's just a aluminum part painted black on the rear surface. But once that's dry, it'll be very, very matte finish, and all of these bits where the paint had chipped off over time will be completely flat. I have a set of Mamiya Sekor-Cs with a PL mount. It must have been a Duclos PL mount. Who else is doing a PL mount on those? I think that was another Phil Holland credit. I think Phil was the first person that asked us to do the PL mount. However, it was not the first mount conversion. My father converted the Sekor-C lenses to BNCR mount probably 20 years ago. Something like that. Alright, I'm going to let that dry. Actually, the screws don't touch that part, so I'm going to install it. Yeah, I had it serviced by... oh, nice. Excellent, Andrew. So for classic feature look drama short films, we prefer the Leica or the ZF. That's a tough one. Personally, I would go with the Leica, but there's absolutely no reason you couldn't use the ZFs on any of that type of content. Is it possible to make Leica R lenses PL, or are they only EF? It is possible, but it requires a complete rehousing. There's no mount conversion for the Leica Rs. To PL, that is. So it is doable, and there are a handful of companies that do it. TLS, I think, was the first one to do it commercially. Dalsa was actually the first one to do it at all. Dalsa Digital, who is now absorbed into... Who bought Dalsa? Is it like... It was someone like Raytheon or something like that. Some big company bought out Dalsa. But they had done it originally with the Dalsa Primes. The Dalsa Primes were based on the Leica R lenses, so they bought and rehoused Leica Rs. But they obviously didn't sell them. They were supposed to be for their rentals only. But yeah, TLS in the UK did the first commercially available Leica R conversion. And then I think GL Optics, maybe GL Optics was first. GL Optics was probably first. And now I don't know where they stand with it, but I think Zero Optic is going to be doing them here in the US. And thank you for accommodating. Oh, that's right, Phil. Yours had those crazy wide gears. Is the PL mount kit from Mamiya user installable for users abroad? No, not really. We get that question a lot. It's not particularly difficult, but we just don't have the support system in place to, you know, if we send you the kit and then you install it, or you know, a screw gets stuck, we can't help you, we can't do anything, and then we feel responsible because we just sold you a $400 mount. So we'd like to just keep them in-house so that it's done properly. Yeah, this looks much better. You can't, I mean, the anodizing here is all chipped away. You can see. Come on the flange, but that's anodized aluminum. Nothing I can do about that unless we re-anodize it. But now this external piece is nice and flat. No reflections. All right. Okay. Looks good. Smudges. Weird question, but is the circle on a Nikon F lens enough to cover medium format film? I have MF back with M4x5 and bellows. Depends on the lens. The longer focal lengths for the Nikors, maybe some of them will cover by chance, but they certainly weren't designed to cover medium format. So like at 85 and beyond, you might get coverage. I have a Canon Dream Lens 50.95. Wonder he has it to PL. I believe, I think Zero Optic is doing that one also, and maybe TLS also. I can't remember. closed my streaming window. Alright. One done. I missed last week. Anything special this week? This week is Mamiya's. Last week, what was last week? I think last week was all Zeiss. I think it was Milvis lenses. Oops. Give me 1 second here. Okay, same thing here, except this one will get a front ring. And this one's nice and flat, so I don't have to worry about that teetering issue, which is nice. Which one is this? 45. Yeah, all three. Can't wait to see more test footage of your especially how breathing performs. Breathing's not bad at all. I had a lot of fun with it. I'm torn with that lens because I think people have higher expectations of it than they should. It's not gonna compare optically with things like a Fuji or a Zeiss. But that's not the point. The problem that I see with that product category, like the the new DZO lenses, stuff like that, for some reason people are expecting amazing quality for a third or a quarter of the price. That's just not realistic. So if you go into it with realistic expectations, you will be pleased. For what it is, it's a great lens. But if you go in thinking that you can save 15 grand and skip the Fujinon 20-120 or the Zeiss 20-100 and get this instead and get the same performance, then you're going to be disappointed. That's just not how optics work. Ooh, that is stuck. In the spirit of today's Cine-Mod, can I get my freshly dehazed Mamiya 7 8mm back today? Oh, I get, not can I. Nice. Sure, I guess the point is, how does it compare to the Sigma zooms in Ingenue EZ for an inexpensive zoom? You're not going to beat the Sigma zooms, period. That price to performance is almost unbeatable. That is extremely tight. Wow. So this is either going to be covered in Loctite or something is misaligned. Yeah, it's a good chunk of Loctite. I don't think that's going to show up. See that white gunk on the end of it? Let's let that soak. Fire. Yes, fire. Hypothetically, could Zeiss Loxias be converted to L, RF, or micro four thirds? Yes, hypothetically they could. That would be a challenge, only because they're so compact already. There's an article on our blog, the Cine Lens. At least I think it's there. I don't know. I would think I was supposed to remove it. I think Zeiss got mad at me for putting it up. But we had done a Fuji X mount conversion for the Loxia a long time ago. So I think it's doable. Is the a real competitor in the market? I think Zeiss offer good zooms. Also full frame at the price drop of the Canons made it hard. Yeah. That's a very good point, Max. The price drop on the Canon compact zooms, that's hard to ignore. Those are a fantastic value now. I don't think Zeiss will make an RF mount lens. Yeah, see all this gunk. That's all excess thread locker. Or let me rephrase that, Phil. I think that Zeiss would make an RF mount lens, but I don't think that they will repurpose their existing stuff. I think they'll have a new line of lenses specifically for RF mount. Oh, these are really tight too. Jeez. Thanks, Mamiya. Waiting for Sigma to come to the RF world too. Yeah. Sigma has such a long relationship with Canon, making lenses for their mounts. I don't see why they wouldn't, especially now that they're doing they're going heavy into the E mount and L mount stuff. Those designs are already optimized for mirrorless. They can easily adapt those to RF mount. What do you find is the most versatile mount for Super 16 film cameras, like most lenses, ideally affordable? Super 16? I mean, it depends on your camera. I came up working on 16 format primes, like for SRs and stuff, so PL mount. Oh yeah, look at that. See all that gunk? It's probably kind of hard to see on there. But yeah, it's covered in thread locker. When I was, let's see, when was this? Probably the mid 2000s, when I was the head lens tech at Keslow Camera. A lot of my work was maintaining the 16 format stuff, because they were still shooting. There were still shows shooting on 16 format. And they were all PL mount. Everything that Keslo had for 16 format was PL. Now I'm afraid this is all going to be jammed up with thread locker. Do you see LPL being the standard mount for all Cine cameras? No, I don't at all. LPL mount is Arri's attempt at getting people to buy new lenses. LPL is not... There's nothing about it that is necessary. PL lenses, regular PL lenses, cover the LF sensor just fine. The flange depth itself is no different than Canon's EF flange depth that's been around for 20 some odd years or more. The only benefit to it is if you're designing new lenses with that flange depth in mind. And even then, you're better off designing lenses with an even shallower flange depth, like Sony RF mount or L mount, anything like that, that is truly mirrorless. The LPL flange depth is 44 millimeters, which is the same as a Canon EF lens. So there's really not a whole lot of benefit. The diameter of it could help in designing telecentricity, but it's not a huge groundbreaking step by any means. And I don't think it's going to be the standard. Arri argues with their signature prime's optical design. They say it's necessary for a modern design. Really? So regular PL lenses won't work on the LF? That's odd. That's exactly what Arri would say, because they want you to buy signature primes, not other lenses that perform similarly. I would love to know the actual physics behind Arri saying that it's necessary. And if they say that a shallower flange depth is necessary, then why did they go with the same distance that Canon has been using since the dawn of the EF mount? Please don't launch the spring at me. Ah, I did it. But I caught it. There we go. That's the worst thing about declicking Mamiyas. There's almost no way to stop that ball bearing from just flying out at you. This one's almost completely dry also. They say they can use bigger glasses in the back. I guess that is true, but Zeiss came out with their new lenses at the same time with normal PL. Exactly. They're not wrong about the larger diameter at the back can help, but it's far from necessary. Oh. So those tight screws were probably the result of being serviced, because this mess right here is not factory. Somebody glued the crap out of these things. Oh, I just flung it off into the camera. This is all like 3-bond. Just caked on there. These two are done pretty decently, but this one looks like they just gave up and poured glue on it. Okay. Hey Matthew, Mamiya owner here. Looking good. Thanks for taking these on. Also been diving to PL versus LPL2. Seems like exactly what you say. It's a ploy to sell lenses. That said, there are some cool things I've seen for LPL that don't exist for PL. That's not inaccurate. So some of their newer focal lengths in the Signature series, like the 12mm that's super fast, you would struggle to achieve a lens with the same coverage, speed, and image quality with a PL mount. But that's about it. Everything else, all the normal focal lengths, even the telephoto stuff, you could achieve that no problem with a regular PL mount. It's those wide angles that it really benefits. Some Chinons are the same way. Yeah, that bearing going flying is a challenge. I'm actually using these Mamiyas with a Mamiya LPL focal reducer, which does some cool stuff. And it seems like the same thing can't be made for PL. You're so a 645 2PL. Yeah, that's probably true. You're not wrong there, Andrew. Yeah, that is probably not enough space to go 645 to PL with a reducer. So, yeah. Usually stuck in grease, however. Yeah, the Mamiyas don't have a lot of grease to begin with, so they just go flying. Your best bet when you're taking that ring off is, like I did before, you just sort of shroud the whole thing so that when that bearing goes flying, it just hits your hand. It doesn't disappear into your workspace. Okay. Are you noticing people using cameras like the GFX 100 for video? Do you anticipate large sensor photo cameras will be used for video in the future, and will people use full frame? I mean, yes, there are a lot of people shooting content on the GFX for video, and it's fantastic. I love it. I don't think it's going to become mainstream by any means. It's just not practical at this point. I mean, it's great if you're doing, specialty content, but if you're on a proper motion picture set, like a big budget film, no way. I think full frame will become mainstream, but not the big stuff like a GFX or Alexa 65. I could see GFX stuff being like B-cam or second unit type stuff, kind of like how, like, think of like Dark Knight with Christopher Nolan and using the IMAX stuff. They only shot a couple scenes with that IMAX camera. They didn't use that camera for the bulk of the filming, and that's for good reason. So I could see B-cam or second unit stuff being dedicated to like a specialty camera like the GFX. But I would never expect to see something like a GFX as a cam on a big feature film. I do think that it's democratizing that technology, and it will trickle down, or I guess you could say trickle up to the more professional stuff. But I mean, that's really what we're seeing now with Monstro and Venice and all those other cameras. That stuff, it trickled up and is now reliable, usable technology on set. Hi Matthew, hope you're having a good morning. I am. I joined late and maybe answered this. If one was to rehouse Mamiya lenses, which would make more sense, PL or LPL? I would say PL makes much more sense. There's tons more PL mount cameras out there than there are LPL. The only LPL mount cameras out there are Alexa LFs, or if somebody converted a Red or a Sony to LPL. Even if you were shooting on the Alexa LF, every LF comes with a PL adapter. There's absolutely no benefit to shooting on the LF with a lens like this in LPL mount. You will get the exact same practical results, the exact same image. Everything will be the same if you use that PL adapter. So if somebody was to convert these to LPL mount, you would kind of be shooting yourself in the foot. You could only use them on a couple different cameras. if you convert them to PL mount, I mean, your list is huge. Sony, Red, Arri, Canon, Blackmagic, everything. Yeah, that's my point. You can get an LPL mount for Sony or Red from Wooden Camera, but it's not going to help you. It's not going to change anything. There's absolutely no benefit. The only reason that you would convert a camera to LPL mount, like the Wooden Camera one, is if you wanted to use signature primes on those other cameras. But other than that, there's absolutely no benefit. How do you feel about Russian OKC Lomo range of lenses? Who asked that? Benjamin. So I'll give you guys, most of the people that are regulars here know my thoughts on Russian lenses, but I would never not want to repeat that. So as a policy, we don't accept Russian lenses for service or modifications. It's just a financial issue. Every time we would service one, when we used to accept them, it would come back 10 days later because something else broke in the lens. So at a certain point, we just stopped accepting them altogether. It was just a financial risk every time we took one in. That said, I absolutely love the look that you would get with a Lomo lens, with most Lomo lenses. They're fantastic optics, even for all their flaws. That's why you use a Lomo. So they are great if you can get them to work, and if you do get them to work, good luck keeping it reliable. You can always use the LPL to PL adapter. That's my point. If you wanted to use the Mamiyas on an LF, you just use the PL adapter that comes with every LF. And you'd still be able to use them on every other camera, every other PL mount camera ever made. So I don't see any benefit to converting anything to LPL mount. Hey Matthew, just logged in. Will Tokina VV Cine Primes cover the newest 12K Ursa? They will cover the sensor, no problem. If you're asking about resolution, that's a highly debated topic right now. But as far as coverage goes, yes, no problem. The new Ursa is only Super 35. It's a very, very small sensor compared to others out there. The VV primes will cover full frame, VistaVision, even slightly beyond that. To be fair, those signature primes are so... Yes, the signature primes are fantastic. They are, in my opinion, a technical achievement for Arri. They did a really, really good job designing those, and they deserve all the credit. Well, let me rephrase that. They did a really, really good job commissioning the company that built those. Arri doesn't actually make lenses. They never have. But yeah, if you wanted to use signature primes on those other cameras, you'd have to use that wooden camera LPL mount. that crud that came off. You probably can't really see it very well. There's a lot of junk on those screws. How do the Supreme and Signature Primes compare to each other? Thought it was a shame that Zeiss and Arri departed ways. I agree that it was a shame that they couldn't get along, but I think it was a fantastic choice on Zeiss's part because they couldn't really... I think there was some contractual stuff that was limiting Zeiss in what they could and couldn't make. So I think their little divorce, I think, will benefit us as the users in the long run. As far as the differences between those two lines, I think the Supremes are a fantastic option. The Zeiss Supremes. They, in my opinion, they're basically the modern super speeds. They check a lot of boxes that I wanted checked. Personally, I've never, and I've made this public as well, I've never been a fan of CP2s. I've never been a fan of CP3s. They were a stopgap solution. I think the Supremes are the essence of what Zeiss is capable of. What was the liquid for the screw bath? It was acetone. Pure, undiluted acetone. Matt, I also had you Cine-Mod a Nikkor zoom 80 to 100 ED. Wondering about reclicking the aperture ring. Would that be a big deal to do? 80 to 100? I don't recall that lens. But most Nikkors are not difficult to reclick. If you want us to take care of that, just drop me an email and we can take care of that for you. I'm so tired of the debate of resolution. I agree, Max, entirely. Is there an inherent difference between the way vintage rangefinder lenses render on a mirrorless sensor compared to vintage SLR lenses? Also, what are your functional differences? So Benjamin, to answer your... Oh, Frank, 82. Yeah, 80 to 200, no problem. We can re-click that for you easily. Just drop me an email. But Benjamin, there's... As far as the lens renders, yes, there can very much be a difference. Rangefinder lenses have a very steep angle of incident because they're so close to they're so close to the film plane, especially on wide angle lenses. They can be affected by the actual architecture of a digital sensor. If that angle of the light coming in is too steep, it can essentially not go into its bucket correctly, and you'll get some odd aberrations depending on the lens and depending on the sensor as well. Most sensors compensate for this, and you're not going to see an issue at all. But every now and again, we see that phenomenon pop up. Oh, I almost put that back in without the glass. As far as the size and what was the other part you asked? Size and focuser. Focuser, that's completely up to the engineer. It can be whatever they want it to be when they design it. But the size of the lens, generally rangefinder lenses are smaller because they're closer to the film plane and they don't need to be as large. It was so hard to find Mamiyas without stiff focus rings. Does that simply happen with age, or is there preventative measures to keep... Oh. Yeah, you went through a couple. It definitely happens with age. We do see the grease in the Mamiyas tends to dry up quicker than some other lenses. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because Mamiya chose a lower quality grease back when they made these. But I don't think that Mamiya ever intended for these lenses to be used for this long. The other thing that I think is happening that you might have struggled with, Andrew, is the Mamiya Sekor-Cs have become very popular. So a lot of the really good lenses have been snatched up. And now it's just a matter of finding, you have to really search for good ones because all the good ones have been taken. But I think you're in good shape. Like, this focus is beautiful. What is this? This is the 45. This is so... I couldn't ask for a better focus movement on a Mamiya. And now the iris is perfect along with it. It's this nice, fluid, creamy movement. Oh, geez. It's a lot of back and forth. We had another customer that went through very, very similar to you, Andrew. That just struggled to find decent lenses. And his issue was he was buying them sight unseen and sending them direct to us, so we had to basically tell him the condition every time. And it was hard to convey a lot of it, because what one person considers good, another person considers unusable. So without having that baseline of what the client's expectations are, it's very difficult for us to determine where that threshold is. What's the difference between the C and the CNs? Phil, if you're still here, you could probably answer that better than I could. The N's are generally higher quality. I don't know if it has to do with the coatings, but the N's I find are better image quality overall. Why is not my mouse working? There it goes. The C have full metal body, CN have a plastic body. There's some optical revisions and coating revisions. When I was collecting, oh yeah, Rhodesy, Justin had a nice set of Mamiyas also. I went with the older metal body C lenses versus plastic CN copies, mainly for the longer focus or despite the N's better optics. That's handy to know. Yeah, Justin also, if I'm thinking of the same set, you did, you re-anodized them, which you couldn't do if you had the plastic iris ring or any of the plastic components. So those looked beautiful, by the way. I loved those. That is not the right front. Did I grab the wrong kit? Maybe. Oh, I think this is the correct. Yeah, that's not the right one. Okay. I think I'm squared away now. Justin, do you still have those lenses? Or a better question, do you have pictures of those? I would love to share those. Would it make sense to put the CN glass into C's metal body? I believe there are some mechanical differences too, so wouldn't really help. I have a few. It's in my collection a bit. I remember Matthew and I looking at the 35 3.5 projector and being blown away. Yes, that was when I saw the real difference between the C and the CN, right, Phil? That's what you were talking about, the 35 CN. That was surprising. We have a disconnected iris. We got nothing. Let's figure this out. Use the pin. The pin doesn't do anything. When it's in manual mode, it shouldn't. Slide it over? Yeah, the pin's disconnected. I suspect that that lever was not attached. Oh, there it is. That's the issue. There, you can see that. So it's not the pin, it's sticking. I don't know if that's showing in real time, but it's getting stuck. And I suspect likely so goo? What does that mean? Yeah. See, this should spring back all the way. But if I push it, it'll actually open. So something's not operating correctly, and it's not this. This is fine. That's got a a circlip holding it in. So that's plenty tight, but maybe too tight. Grease and iron. No, that was the first thing I checked. The blades are clean and nice. Some goo in there sticking. Yeah, there's something in it. No, the blades were nice and clean. I suspect that got nudged. The little circlip looks fine. I don't see any excess wear on it. I'm waiting for the live stream where the spider crawls out of the lens. The day that happens, I quit. Not quit servicing lenses, I quit the live stream. I'll never stop servicing lenses. It is my lot in life. I think it's the brass plate underneath there. Do you have any suggestions for people wondering about getting a mismatched set of lenses Cine-Modded like FD and CY? And do you have any basic suggestions for somebody from scratch building a kit? I generally recommend sticking with one set. I don't see any benefit to mixing and matching FDs and CYs, Zeiss contacts. Please don't stop the live stream. FDs don't lend themselves great to cinema work. I think my music stopped. Oh, it didn't. Okay. Why don't FDs lend themselves? The mount conversion is not straightforward and simple. Declicking is not straightforward. Putting focus gears on them is fine, but other mods are not as convenient. Where's my mouse? It keeps dying. Oh, here we go. Thank you, Justin. Now, how do I get this? Okay, for anyone that wants to see the silver Mamiya, there you go. So this is Justin, one of our technicians here, did this custom anodizing and paint job, which I think is brilliant. So what we were saying earlier is this, you can't see, I mean, I can't like draw on the screen, but oh, you can here. So this section here on the C ends is plastic. So if you wanted to do this, this would just be black plastic and the rest of the lens is silver. So this makes perfect sense why you would choose the C's instead of the C ends. So very cool stuff. I've always loved this. I love the color scheme, the bright orange with the blue. Super cool. Thank you, Justin. The EF conversion does look like a paint. Yeah, so for FDs, the only way you can convert them to EF is with something like the Edmika mounts, which are 3D printed, and I cannot recommend. So it's just not a great solution. There's adapters out there that use optics as sort of like a relay to get the FDs to EF mount, but they're not, at that point you're destroying your image quality. Why would you bother? So this is gonna be a pain to get this out. There we go. See, that looks fine. There's nothing wrong with this. Why is it freezing up? Well, that feels better. Maybe that was it. That's much better. I don't know if you can see that now. It's super consistent and smooth. Oh, it's that end. That's why. this one might need some additional TLC. Is it the spring? No, the spring is fine. The spring has tension at all times. See, even when it's fully open, there's still a little bit of tension. If it was going all the way and compressing fully, it could be the spring, yes. But it's definitely not the spring in this case. I think it's something in the actual mobile iris ring. %, sure Ed won't be making adapters anymore. He didn't ship my last 3 orders. Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he just gave up. I don't know if he had a lot of problems with the mounts breaking, so he just stopped doing it. I don't know. I heard a certain lens modding company is going to start selling an FD conversion. Who's that, Biscuit? Maybe it is oil in the blades. It's just buried deep in and not visible. Oh, Cine-Mod. Yeah. If Ed Mika's not doing them anymore, then I might. I never did them because I didn't want to step on Ed Mika's toes. As a matter of respect. But, oh, it is oil. I see it on the front there. Uh-huh. Alright, this guy needs some additional care then. Yeah, I stayed away from the FD stuff because of Ed. I don't know him, but I've never been one to copy someone else's product, which is why we use all the Litax products. I could make the Litax stuff no problem, but we respect David and what he does, and I wasn't gonna rip off his products. So if Ed Mika's out, then yeah, I'll probably do it. All right, let's get back on track for the declicking here. Random question, what's the general process of training a new lens technician over at the ranch. You call this place the ranch? So the way that works is, hold on, let me get my music running again. So the way that works with new lens technicians, we basically have 3 levels of technicians. We have what most people consider master technicians. We have regular technicians, and then we have our junior technician. We usually have 1 junior technician at a time, and that junior technician learns from the other full-fledged technicians and the master technicians. That position at our company has almost always led to a full technician position. I think most if not all of our standard technicians started in the junior technician spot. I killed the music again. There we go. Mika's page says that his shop has been closed until further notice. The page is still up, but he's not working, it seems. Like I said, I don't know him, but I hope he's okay. I don't know why he has closed for the time being. Follow up on GFX 100. Are people adapting full-frame lenses for video use in a large sensor, mainly photo cameras? Can they even be adapted at wider focal lengths? I don't understand your question, Benjamin. Are people adapting full-frame lenses for video use on these larger sensors? No, I think most people are using medium format optics on something like a GFX. They're either using the actual Fuji lenses, or they're using something like this, a Mamiya that covers the sensor. Some have modded the Zeiss Otis to GFX because yeah, so that's what I was saying earlier. I think Benjamin had asked originally. Some full frame lenses like 85s and beyond will cover a medium format sensor like GFX. Tokina VV Cine cover 8K fine. Will they be able to cover more? 12K is not a size. 12K is a resolution, Luca. If you're asking about the 12K Ursa, then the Tokina VV lenses, the Tokina Vistas, will cover well beyond the 12K format on the Ursa. Yeah, the 28 Otis will not cover medium format. That barely covers full frame. The 55, I don't think it does on the GFX. Have you serviced any SLR Magic lenses? Any thoughts on the quality? Yeah, we see them from time to time. They're maybe, I would say, slightly above par as far as Chinese lenses go. They're not bad, but they're also not... They're not going to hold up as long as a like a Cook or a Zeiss or something like that. Fun fact, the Ursa 12K sensor is the same exact format size as Red Komodo 6K, but the 6 pixel size. Yeah, so the Ursa 12K sensor is basically Super 35. It's no bigger than, I mean, any APS-C sized SLR, DSLR or mirrorless, anything. It's not, as far as sensor sizes go, it's not revolutionary at all. It's only revolutionary in that it's an extremely high resolution. We should call the GFX Full Frame Plus. Oh, it's... Oh, I see what you're saying there. Because your Mamiya 7... the 6.7, that's proper medium format, and the GFX isn't. Is that what you're saying, George? If I catch your drift. going back to the resolution thing with 12K, definitely if you have a spare, probably like 20 or 30 minutes long video, Google the Steve Yedlin camera test, and I think that will answer a lot of people's questions as far as resolution goes. I'm a snob. It's okay, you've earned it, George. When building a set of these Mamiya or any old set lenses, what's the best way to match color match them? Oh, absolutely. Chip chart is the way to go. Chip chart, even that is a bit excessive. The way we do it is we have sensor evaluation software. So basically we have an imager. It's a dedicated sensor that all it's used for is color evaluation. It shoots a calibrated white card basically, and it evaluates the temperature, hot or cold, or warm or cool, whatever you want to call it, and we can basically narrow down with temperature. Essentially, it's not really going to, you hear people always talk about, oh, this one seems a little more green, or this one seems a little more magenta, or whatever. A lot of times that's just chromatic aberration. But the tool that we use, is the method we use, just looks at temperature, basically. I got into an argument with Yedlin about resolution. Why would you do that, George? Remind me not to invite you to the clubhouse anymore. I'm kidding, George. You will be invited. Do you have any thoughts, opinions on the image quality from Sekor-C's and the 0.7 Volk reducer for full frame? It's gonna affect it. No question about that. It's going to reduce your image quality. It's just a matter of how much you're willing to accept. So I think it's great. I think it's a really cool solution. You just have to know what you're willing to accept as far as image quality goes. I did so because he was wrong. I'm gonna have to hear this, the basis for this argument eventually, George. I'm also not opposed to telling an ASC member when they're wrong. Just because they're ASC doesn't mean that they are always right. Yeah, that's gonna need more service. I think it'll be okay at a certain point, but it's gonna jam up every time. Alright, since this one's going to have to come apart more to fix that oily iris, I'm going to set it aside for now. Might as well leave these off. Do you know of any downsides to achromatic lens design? I'm surprised there aren't more common. Downsides would be price, I guess you could say. They're expensive. Not everybody wants to pay for an apochromatic lens design. My coffee is super cold. It's gross. But. Alright, I think since that's killed off, it's Red Bull time. I'm gonna grab that before I start this guy. This lens is not in as good a shape as the others, but it feels great. Cosmetically, it's flawed. This is a CN, and it has the plastic, so I hope that I don't run into issues with the mount screws. You use your own step-up rings? What do you mean? You mean like the step-up rings that we started manufacturing and everyone copied us? Yeah, of course. It's not going to focus. There it goes. Yeah. Standard 80mm step-up ring. Step-up rings are nothing new. The 80mm diameter is something that we've been doing for oh my gosh, maybe 10 years, something like that. Fun fact, the term Cine-Mod is owned by Duclos lenses. We've been doing the Cine-Mod long before any of these other companies popped up. So every time you see someone online that says, here's my Cine-Modded lens from so-and-so, and it's not Duclos, technically it's not a Cine-Mod. Oh no, is this dead again? I think so. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna grab that beverage. I'll be back. Oh, Biscuit, you don't have to stop using the term. I can't police everyone on the planet. And yes, legally we're supposed to enforce it, but I'm honored that other people use the term. It's like, it's become the Kleenex of lens mods. And I'm totally fine with that. So, what I'm not fine with is all the companies that copy our products and sell them for half the price just because they make them cheaper. So it is what it is. But the bits that we're adding onto the lens, they are what they are. All of our gears, for anybody that doesn't know what we actually do here, so our gears that we make are solid black Delrin. They're not 3D printed. These aren't gonna slip on set. They're not gonna just fall off or jump off the gear tooth because they're not printed to the correct pitch diameter. They're slightly flexible, but once they're on the lens, they're rock solid. They're CNC machined. They're far more reliable than anything 3D printed. So that means we should immediately report them to you, and you can, yeah. I wish. There's a lot of people out there that cop. I mean, Cine-Mod's actually not a bad example. Even his website, even the terminology and the verbiage on his website was literally copy and pasted. He was using our product photos as his photos for quite a while. So all we can do is remind them that that's intellectual property and that's stealing, and that's it. Other than that, there's not much we can do. Alright. Take care, Marcin. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. I will be right back. I'm back. This segment brought to you by Red Bull. Just kidding. Ooh. Did you guys ever acid dip any Sekor-C Cine-Mods? I recall seeing a stripped silver one for sale. Yeah, that's what we were just showing. You mean Like, who asked that? Camera speed. You mean like this? Is that what you mean? No problem, no problem. If that's the one you're referring to, Mr. Camera Speed, then yes, that was done by us. That was one of our technicians that was actually in the chat. I don't know if he's still here. I gotta set aside these parts. That goes to that lens. So yeah, so if you've seen a silver Mamiya Sekor-C, that's us. Are all of your components made in the US? Yes. Which we are very proud of, but at the same time we also realize that's probably why our stuff is more expensive than others. Everything we make, not just made in the US, it's made in Chatsworth, within 2 miles of our shop. So all of our materials are proper, high quality. Yeah, nothing gets outsourced, nothing gets subsidized or anything like that. I'm sure there's a lot of people that say, well, there's your problem. You should just outsource your stuff to China. You'd save a ton of money. But that's not really... I don't want to sacrifice quality just to save a couple bucks. Or I should say, just to make more money on products. Stepping on his toes. One of the main reasons I'm focusing on Chinon lenses as opposed to more popular brand. I don't understand. I don't have too much experience with the Chinon. Those are those not Russian? I don't remember. Oh, let me get rid of this Mamiya. Go away. Japan. Ah, okay. I don't know that I've ever seen one of those lenses in person. I see them online all the time, but I've never shot with one. speaking of Japan, let's do, whoever's watching, let's do a quick country sound off, because I'm always curious where people are watching from. So drop in the chat where you are, what country you're in, or city, either way. Mozambique? Are you serious, or are you just messing with us? Narnia. Come on, Phil. Oklahoma. All right. My wife's family is from Oklahoma. Okies. Florida, Brooklyn. Reseda. Nice. So you're down the street from us. Another Florida. Burbank. That's better, Phil. Rochester, the glass capital of the United States. Very cool. Switzerland. Nice. Max, I knew that from last couple of streams. You serious? You really are? That's awesome. Very cool, Antonio. Miami. So lots of people in Miami. Perkins, Oklahoma. Yeah, my wife's family is, oh my gosh. If she's watching, she's gonna get mad at me. I think most of them live in Moore? No. I can't remember now. That might be my brother. Where does her family live? I hope she's not watching. She's gonna get mad at me. Alright, I'll see what she says. I just asked her. Yukon? No. I just asked. She'll tell me. I just asked her. We've gone there like maybe 2 times in the last 5 years or so. I don't know why it's escaping me right now. It's right near where's the what college is the Sooners? They're right near that college. Because every time we go there, we have to go to a football game. It's like required. Norman, that's it. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Yes, they live in Norman. Toronto? Oh, you're from Toronto. Okay, nice. I do love Toronto. Toronto. Did you ever had a PS Technic rehoused Koa anamorphic in your hand? Yes, I have. I was on a shoot with a set and one of the anamorphic elements was a bit rotated, so it was funny to shoot. Yeah, that's a pretty easy adjustment, if I recall. We actually just had a discussion about that here recently. That's not uncommon at all for any anamorphic lens. They need to be tuned and maintained. That rotation, that horizontal and vertical rotation, has to be dialed in very, very carefully. they do their own new... Oh, you're talking about the Revolution. No, Evolution. That's what they're called. Yes, we've seen those as well. Same thing. They are finicky, just like every anamorphic lens, and they require constant maintenance. We are the authorized service facility for PS Technic lenses in the US. I think. I shouldn't say that. I don't know if that's accurate. I know we work with PS Technic a lot. I don't know if they have any sort of authorization program, but generally when there's an issue with a PS Technic lens in the US, they tell the customer to send it to us. They don't have to ship it back to Germany. If you have something you can shoot EF mount on, I'll send you a 50mm China to try out. Sure, I've got all the mounts. My school has an old 40mm Bausch & Lomb combination anamorphic. It's huge. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Are you telling me that your school has like a proper vintage cinema scope? Cambob 3000? If that's the case, then your school is sitting on a very, very rare lens. Wow. That's awesome. Biscuit, yes. That's, if you want to do that, I would love to check that out. The address is all over our website. Should be, at least. I think it's at the bottom of the main page. In care of me, yeah. Not many people know about it, and I've seen them adapted before. I just don't know if they'd go for it. So, your school has this old, basically anamorphic Baltar. What are they putting it on? What camera? That was a Mitchell mount, I think. Or no, what? I can't remember. I don't know what kind of camera they would be putting it on. It's got to be something like a Mitchell. It's a Fox camera mount. All right, that makes sense. That was I'm not familiar with those too well because that's way before my time. But yeah, that was essentially Fox commissioned that from Bausch & Lomb to try and compete with, oh man, who was it that was doing, I can't remember who was doing the other anamorphic stuff. It's completely slipping my mind right now. sits in its case, in a case doing nothing. If it's the original case, it's probably a big old wooden box with like a metal or a leather handle or something like that. Yep, it's got the knob on the side. That's worth something. They can technically be modified to PL, but it's a lot of work, and I can't remember who. Somebody on Red User was basically documenting that entire process. They were doing it from scratch. They were converting it to PL. Phil, you probably remember who was doing that. It was like a 20-page thread, and it was really cool to watch the progress of this thing. And I think they had to make concessions on the camera side of things at one point to get it to work correctly, but I don't remember. Yeah, Dave Stump's set was with us for a while, and we, to answer your statement, Phil, we were gonna be doing his PL conversion, but the cost just kept going up and up and up, and I don't think it was something that he wanted to do at the time. It was different than what the guy on Red User did. The guy on Red User just sort of redid the back end. What we were planning on doing was essentially a full rehousing, or at least a majority rehousing. This one needs some touch-up paint also. rehousing would be the way to go if the cost made sense. Oh, I can tell you right now, the cost won't make sense. They're extremely heavy for what they are. Yeah, I mean, they're fantastic lenses, and there's so much history behind those things. I absolutely love the CinemaScopes. What does a Mamiya Sekor-C look like on 7.7 speed booster pocket 4K? Been looking for a wider lens. It looks like a Mamiya squished down a little bit. Depending on what speed booster you're using, it's going to introduce some additional aberrations. It's inevitable. So definitely have realistic expectations. There's no miracle product that'll make it wider without changing the look. Have you ever seen any official production numbers on the M645 lenses? There's a couple that seem to be pretty elusive, the 300 2.8 and the 500 4.5. I seldom see. You mean like quantities produced? No, I have not seen that. The 24 on the speed booster, that would look weird. Because you're already starting with a fisheye lens. I don't know if you'll like what you get out of that. The 24mm is a fisheye. If you're talking about the Mamiyas. All right. I once owned a Panavision anamorphic projector lens with zebra focus ring. Would I have ever been able to adapt that for videos, like a step-up ring? Maybe. It just wouldn't be very convenient on set. I heard some people get a 28 Mamiya M42. Yeah, you could do that, and that could be adapted to like EF mount or something similar. Panavision, owning anything Panavision is a red flag. Alright, this looks pretty solid. That is definitely on there forever now. Alright, that's good. That one did not have a cap, sadly. Similar to this guy. I'm gonna take another crack at this one. I don't have the tools I need here right now. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll save this for Monday. Yeah, this is gonna have to come all the way apart to get that that sticky iris. Yeah, I'll get my grippy rings. Alright. I'm gonna call it there for today and get cracking on this on Monday. Alright. If you have any questions, drop them in there now while I clean up, and I will answer questions. What should I mod next weekend? I might try to do a set of Nicors. Nicor AS24 F2 versus 28 F2. That's a tough one. I don't think there's any defining difference to me. Personally, I would lean towards the 28, but I think I'm saying that only because I have more experience with it. And that's a little more, I guess my question would also be, what format are you shooting? If you're shooting full frame, I would go with the 28 for sure. Again though, that's personal preference. I really enjoy the 28mm focal length on full frame. If you're on APS-C, I'd probably go with the 24. APS-C or Super 35. Super 35. I would go with the 24, strictly based on the angle of view that you'll get with it. I don't know that you'll see a huge difference in the look. I have the 20 and the 35. Then, yeah, I would double down on saying the 28. this guy gets stashed for Monday. That'll do. Alright guys, thank you again. Sorry, air. Definitely, I feel silly saying it, but subscribe because it will help us a lot. If we end up having to close down again thanks to California. But yeah, subscribe and come back next Saturday. We'll do it again. Bye.